Hi there, this is the Truth Seeker. I'm sitting in the Civic Center parking lot. I just came out of the library and been trying to focus on an interview that I'm going to be going to tomorrow for a job that I need. However, I keep getting emails and phone calls for other job possibilities as well that are closer to my home, more desirable job titles. But as it is with, job searching, you can't second guess anything. So, although I would not like to drive as far for this interview that I'm going to be going to tomorrow, I still can't discount it because the reality is I need a job right now. I need a job, like so many of us right now in this economy. And it just seems like, what is this, February 18th? It just seemed like all the recruiters called me at once today. Almost like everybody's gearing up for the end of first quarter, which is the end of March. And companies do a lot of letting go and hiring and all kinds of movement during the each quarter phase. And so it almost seemed like this mid-February mark was some kind of a push from all of the contracting agencies and recruiters and direct hire opportunities. It's hard for me to take all that in and to try to focus on my interview tomorrow. It's really been hard. I mean, I looked over the paper, but honestly, I'm so sick of trying to be somebody else when I go to an interview. And I have all my knowledge here, my experiences, and I just go to the interview and I answer the questions based on my honest, sincere experience. And unfortunately, that does not work out too well because a lot of times people are looking for somebody to really wow them, And I was thinking about this yesterday because I have been driving Uber. All of us are driving Uber right now, right? How else are we going to make money? But one of my rides last night was saying, "Oh, do you make sure and send a thank you letter? Do you make sure and send a thank you letter after your interview?" And it occurred to me that I had forgot, I've been forgetting to do that. It's something that, unless I'm going through a checklist, I'm not going to remember. And I think that therein lies the issue, is that it just does not seem natural to me to send a thank you letter. Now, I know that's important. That's important to send a thank you letter. But from my own perspective, from my emotional standpoint, if I was the interviewer, now I know I'm not the interviewer, but if I was the interviewer, a thank you letter to me wouldn't mean much, because the criteria that I judge people on is a completely different set of criteria that most of society is judging people on, including myself. I am being judged by the person that I am, by the person that I express myself to be. And the fact that I don't think in the way that the majority of people think. I don't come to conclusions in the same way that other people come to conclusions. I don't perceive or comprehend things in the same sequence that other people are doing so. A while back when I was in college, a number of years ago, let's say 20 years ago, I took some personality tests, Myers-Briggs personality test, and it showed that I was INJT. So, I don't remember the exact meaning for each letter, but what it meant is this: introverted, and I believe the N was for intuitive, and the J is for judging, having a judging character to be able to judge things, and the T is for thinking. Okay. So the INJT personality type is very introverted. We do not think of things in a sequential manner. We think of them in a correlated manner. So if you have a scatter plot chart with your line, and you have all your correlated dots on the bottom and on the top, I could look at that data and I can come to a conclusion and say, this is the likely outcome. Based on all of the correlative data, this is your most likely outcome, and this is what it is. Because I'm not coming to the conclusion in a line-by-line sequential manner. I'm coming to the conclusion based upon a number of correlative factors. Okay? And the problem with that type of thinking is that it requires a different approach than the standard approach, or the more popular approach, which would be to, now I'm talking about like in a work environment, and not only in a work environment, but in everything that I do, be it a job interview, or going to the grocery store, or listening to my wife, or whatever it is. This is how I am. This is my nature. And the problem with that is that I have to catch myself at times skipping ahead and asking questions that really seem tangential, tangents. They seem like tangents, tangential or whatever, to the topic at hand, to where somebody will cock their head and say, "Why are you asking that?" And that was out of the blue. Why can't you stay on topic? And so when other people are thinking that I'm not following what they're saying, I've actually already worked out in my head where they're going to arrive at, where that landing point is. And I'm already skipping ahead, and I'm already asking a question that I believe is pertinent to that said outcome, which has not occurred yet. And so a lot of times in the business world, when I'm doing spreadsheets, or when I'm filtering data, or when I'm in a meeting, every once in a while, some of these questions will escape my mouth. I can't contain myself always. I mean, I can try to to be the way that everybody else wants me to be, and only speak things that seem to be pertinent to the situation. But every once in a while it will slip out and I will ask a question based on this type of thinking. And people will laugh at me. And, they'll just say, "Scott, you're so weird." But some people, who might, also see things the way that I see them and understand that outcome would, maybe come to me later and say, "You're right on about that." And so, as a population, I feel like I'm definitely outnumbered as far as my thinking type is concerned. But whether I'm on the autistic spectrum, that continues to be a question. I went to about 8 psychological evaluations, psychological appointments since October. And the last 2 I felt were becoming unproductive because they were, the focus had shifted basically off of how I think or how I process, and it had focused on to some type of behavioral modifications, like using calendars and setting dates and writing lists and keeping a note of your tasks at hand, which is good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that that's not what I'm looking for right now. What I'm looking for is an evaluation of whether or not I fall on the autistic spectrum. And seeing as how I'm looking for a job right now, now's not the time for me to be spending money on those types of psychological appointments that I feel are not doing any good. And eventually I need to go to somebody who specializes in evaluating adult autistic spectrum and tell me, yes, you are, or no, you're not. One thing I do know is that throughout this journey of trying to figure out if I'm on there, that I am definitely accepting myself for who I am. I'm accepting myself for the way I think, for how fast I think. And that goes both ways, because at times I feel I don't think fast enough, especially if I'm experiencing fatigue and if I'm experiencing a burnout. I have to accept the fact that I'm not thinking fast enough and not care about how the rest of the world is looking at me like, "Oh, what a doofus," and "Oh, what's wrong with you?" and "Come on, get on your game, drink a cup of coffee." And I think that is a big problem. Coffee is that I can really fall into like abusing coffee because I'm trying to keep myself up at this heightened level of all these like spastic individuals around me. And honestly, I just want to chill, and I just want to say, "Hey, look, can't we just come at this, from a relaxed, but that's not business. Business is like, come on, go, 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 and, that's fine. That's the way it is. But I'm just saying is like, the reason that I drank coffee was that I could, use it, like a stimulant, like a drug or something, but come to find out, like most of the people around me are probably using like harder drugs, and that's why they're so neurotic, whereas I'm just like sitting there eating like healthy foods, trying to get by, and everybody else is coming at me from a neurotic, agitated, anxious, like, I don't want to deal with that. That is not my nature. Some people thrive on that, but look, I've sat down today and I've tried to like focus on getting ready for this interview time and time again. And it's hard for me to sit there and like come up with contrived. First of all, I've done it all before, over and over and over again. You know, I am who I am. You know, I'm 43 years old. You know, in some ways I feel like, okay, it's time to dye the hair. You know, maybe I'm getting a little bit of ageism, you know, throughout the interview process, you know. But it's like the number of variables in real life is hard to deal with rather than like on a spreadsheet. On a spreadsheet, you have a defined number of variables and you can go through it. But in life, when you're dealing with multiple interviews and you got like emails and phone calls and you got to figure out what you're going to wear. First of all, I'm colorblind, so you know, the only colors I can see are the ones that I've taught myself, like yellow, red, blue, green, you know, and I can see some shading difference, but, you know, I mean, it's just a matter of like color coordination. That does not come to me at all. I don't understand it, you know, so I tend to just wear, you know, similar type clothes, or if, you know, somebody like my wife bought me this shirt, everybody loves this shirt, so I just continue to wear it, and that to me is odd too, you know, like a week and a half ago, some guy in a grocery store was like, he was straight, you know, he had a wife and all that. It wasn't like he was gay or he was coming on to me or nothing like that. He just was like, oh, nice shirt, you know, like, and I look at it and I go, you know, I have to say thank you. I have to say, oh, yeah, thanks. You know, because to me, this shirt, it's a functional shirt. It's comfortable. It's loose. But, you know, color-wise, I'm not saying it like evokes any kind of emotion to me at all. Like I'm just saying, like, it's just sort of like a bluish, grayish, whatever, you know, I'm not like taken aback like this gentleman was. And then like the other night, another one of my riders in Uber was like, oh, that's a nice shirt, you know? So it's like every time I wear this, I get a compliment on the shirt. And I'm like, you know, that just like tells me over and over again, like, not only am I colorblind, but emotionally how I react to colors and how they affect me is not the same as how it's affecting a lot of other people, you know. And so as a result of that, I'm not wowed by a lot of different things, okay? And there's even like things like subtle things, you know, like auditory that maybe I'm missing because I have to be honest with you. Like, I'll give an example. There was this guy about 8 years ago. Everybody was just saying, man, he is so charismatic when he talks. He's just got such charisma. And I just would watch this gentleman on the news, and I'd watch him, and I thought, I don't see it. I don't see the charisma, because all I was ever listening to was the content. I was judging the content of what this gentleman was saying continually. And so unless there was some sort of drastic, like, interval of change in his voice, I wasn't catching any charisma. Because to me, when I think of charisma, I think of somebody who has a large, you know, inflections in his voice and is very, like, gets even loud at times, okay? That's what I think of charisma. But But this individual, wasn't necessarily that. Although he did get loud, I never really sensed in his presentation that he was charismatic, and I was not drawn to him. But at any rate, that gentleman proceeded to get elected as president for two times. But aside from all that, I just feel like, these are the things that hinder me when I go to a job interview. Okay. And I'll try to give the eye contact, and, they say like between 4 and 7 seconds. So I stay on the safe side, and I try to just like give 4 seconds of eye contact. But I'm a lot better at like making sure that I give eye contact, like if there's 3 people in the room, and like kind of acknowledging each person, in the room. But I have to consciously think that I'm acknowledging each person in the room. And so that becomes very tiresome during the interview process. And so it's not that I don't do that naturally. It's just that there's a lot of walls that have to come down. There's a lot of barriers, like once I get to know somebody, and once we're, buddy-buddy, or, people begin to pick up on those subtle nuances in my behavior and my what they call dry sense of humor. To me, I never thought of it as like a dry sense of humor. I just thought of it as my sense of humor, But, just things like that. And this whole last Valentine's Day was not a good Valentine's Day for me. I wasn't on my game, okay? I did all the right things. I mean, I spent the money, on my wife. I got her gifts. But I'm just not in a romantic, what you would call a romantic place. And to me, the most difficult thing for me to do is to work myself up into a romantic feeling. When you're young and when you're in love, it's easy, right? It's easy. So, those are things that take work, that's like daily work. Think about your wife. Think about how much you love her. And the more you do it, the more you kind of get a momentum, and you just sort of, your emotions start to blossom a little more. It's kind of like I go through a season of emotional openness, where like I'll have these revelatory emotional experiences, and I'll feel so connected to everything around me, and seeing every nuance, and even though I'm colorblind, like there's been a few times in my life where I go through these experiences and it's like I'm seeing new colors, so then it, like, to me, I'm thinking, this has got to be something to do with the brain, like how is it that I go through these healing mental experiences in my life, and I feel so connected, and I feel so alive, and then I go through a winter, and everything goes down again, and I level off, and I'm just going like this, just straight line all the way through, kind of just sanguine, and then everybody around me thinks that I'm depressed, but I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm depressed. I'm just not dynamic. I'm not dynamic, okay? But, it's like, okay, I got to go to an interview, and I got to be dynamic, and I got to be, I got to connect with them. I got to, like, smile and be happy, and and upbeat and excited, like this is the job for me, you know. And you know, I think like I consider myself blessed, you know, like to have been able to work as much as I have. Like, especially if I find out that I'm on the autistic spectrum, then perhaps maybe I'm not as, you know, severe, you know, like maybe I've overcome a lot, you know. Maybe that's the case. So I'm just a little frustrated right now because it really takes all of my energy just to focus on an interview. Like I can't even really begin to like say like all the things that go through my head when I'm looking through a job description, and it's like, okay, I need to study that a little more, and then it's like I'm on the internet studying like some acronym of some system just to make sure I know it. And then I'm like, okay, what kind of questions are they going to ask? And are they going to ask behavioral questions? Are they going to ask functional questions? Are they going to ask me like, what have been my experiences in the past? And then, you know, like, what are your weaknesses? It's like, what are your strengths? You know, ultimately, I need to run my own business. I need to one day have my own business and run it from my home, because I do not see myself continually trying to be somebody else. I need to be who I am, and I need to survive in the long haul. So, anyway, that's just an update of what's going on, and God bless all of you. Keep seeking truth.